Not literally.
No, of course I wouldn't say it if it was true.
But
Faith is back in the booth. We have Faith.
We do have faith. You gotta have faith.
Yep.
Faith.
It's Deuce. It's Alex.
Hello.
Evan will be here after Mr. Zappe finishes his press conference. Paul is cheating on us.
He sure is.
He's on one of his stations.
He's spewing his hot takes.
Nothing sadder than the holiday fill-in host. I'm telling you.
Not for Paul. He loves it.
20 minutes into every show, it's okay, favorite Christmas movie. And then once Christmas is over, it's like, is New Year's an overrated holiday?
Man. I think it is, but we're not going to actually.
We're not doing that. That's for those that don't have anything to talk about.
Before we get too into it, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
we
okay.
hear you. You don't hear yourself?
I can't hear myself, so.
Okay.
No, nothing.
All right, we'll just go with it.
We can hear you.
Cool.
It's going to be like the old Zoom shows when we had to do them like remotely, and you could never hear yourself talking, and you would like try to say jokes, and it like, did I fall completely flat? No one's even responding. But
yeah, the reason I like it is because it's harder to talk over each other when you can hear yourself and everyone in the headphone. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, that was why the shows on Zoom were all kind of talking over each other.
Oh, we have to worry. Paul's not here today.
That's
so
right.
We're good.
He's not going to yell at us for doing things wrong, saying wrong things.
He's so much more subdued when he's on like one of his shows.
Oh yeah.
He's like Mr. Professional. It's like, Paul, be yourself.
Who is this guy?
Yeah.
No, he's great. I'm sure he's having fun. This is where he gets all his recognition from. So when he's out and about, and the fans of Paul Perillo come up. I mean, those are my favorite stories about Paul getting recognized in public. And, like you feel somebody lurking, and they're like, "What's this guy doing?" He's kind of staring at us, just standing. Then whenever it happens with both of us, I was, "Oh, there he is," and he always tries to be like, "Oh, and Deuce too," and like you don't know who I am.
I like the ones that Paul. You're not that old. You seem older on Unfiltered.
That's the grumpy old man. No.
Yeah. All right, so what do we got? We got it's Wednesday.
Yeah, weird schedule
Stadium
today. We heard from Bill today. We heard some good stuff from him, which I just thought was interesting. And I wish Paul was here because it was great. I know Paul always has this thing of, that Bill doesn't really respect Josh Allen all that much. I think it was, what was it like? One of the commentators. One of the commentators a couple years ago said during one of the games, during the pregame meeting. I think it was Louis Riddick maybe spilled some beans of what Bill had said.
It was a few years ago.
And today they asked him, when did you kind of realize that this is who he is now? And he compared him to Brady. I mean, he said, midway through the 2003 season, which is 20 years ago, and little teaser, 2003 Sound Odyssey coming up soon. But said once Brady kind of hit that mode in 2003, midway through the season, that was who he was. He hit that next level, and he was dominant. So it was just, kind of interesting always to hear Bill talk about those things and give his perspective, because obviously we all watch those games. We have our perspective. I know Paul thinks that Tom was really good in 2002. Even in some of my interviews for that project, some people are, he wasn't that great. He was inconsistent. I think there's a little bit of, discussion as to how good Brady was in 2002. But I thought that part was really cool.
Yeah, today Bill said in 2003, Brady became who he was going to become.
Yeah.
I think he said week 6. He had it right down to the week.
Right. I got to look which one it was.
And he said the same for Josh Allen. In his third year, he kind of became who he is now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just interesting going back. I think he's actually Allen's 5-5 versus the Patriots, which just doesn't feel right. It just feels like they've kind of owned them until the Patriots beat them this year. And then the win game, of course, that they got on him. But he's a great player. And it's frustrating. Talking to the coaches yesterday, I was talking to Mike Pellegrino.
He's the quarterback Gronk. Not with the goofiness, but I'm the best guy in the field.
Yeah, he's
just how tough.
Yeah, and he can physically just take over a game.
He's a monster.
It's like the two things that make you fear the most and I said it to Mike Pellegrino. I was like, look, I'm got to have it third downs. I know it's going to Diggs.
Right.
You know it's going to Diggs. How do you kind of coach that?
And if it doesn't go there, I'm going to run with it.
Exactly.
Right.
And those are the two biggest things. Not to take anything away from Gabe Davis, who had a good game last week and was making some big plays, and Shakira, who's Shakira, who's emerging a little bit in the slot for them. So Dalton Kincaid's given them some additional targets for him, and James Cook is playing pretty well too. Yeah. So they're tough all around, and the Patriots are going to have their work cut out.
I think it's going to be great. Not that the Patriots need to be tested at this point, because there's really nothing to get ready for, but it'll be a good game in that Buffalo's playing for their playoff lives. You're going to get the best of them.
Yep.
So what, Patriots have won their last 2 or 3 games. who are they? Is Denver really any good? Is Pittsburgh really any good? Going in, we thought Pittsburgh was, but now they've kind of fallen apart. Denver, so can the Patriots really put it together and be competitive with a team that is playing really good football right now with talented players,
but has some warts and has I mean, they beat them once this year.
Well, there's no team in the NFL that doesn't.
Sure.
Let's say that. But right now, of the teams that are vying for a playoff spot, Buffalo's probably playing as well as anyone right now.
They've gotten so hot at the perfect time.
Yeah, like 49ers fell off a cliff yesterday, or 2 days ago. But the Bills' last couple games have been playing their best.
They are. I mean, I think it's the proverbial the team that nobody wants to play because it's Josh. I mean, I still think with Kelsey's kind of slowing down and you've seen some injuries to Mark Andrews. It's still the most reliable connection I think in the AFC is Diggs and Allen, and that's the hardest thing I think to stop of all the AFC teams left standing at this point. So you can't rule that out, and for all the reasons we said. And Josh Allen still has that ability to take the game into his hands. And, it seems like they're doing better since they've moved to Joe Brady a little bit. But, it's just I'm really interested in this game. Look, I think we all, we talked about as the ship sailed on Bill and all that. And, it's a win over Denver is one thing. But, win over Buffalo, well, they're fighting for their lives. I don't know, you guys.
It's like,
I mean, maybe you can do it. The team no one wants to play, Bill. My feeling is they're going to fight really hard, but it's just not going to be enough in the end of the day.
And the Bills have a coach who they haven't been losing like the Patriots, but he's on the hot seat a little bit. Like if they don't make the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of doubters of McDermott.
Yeah,
and there were prior to them starting to play well.
Yeah.
Not just with the coach. I think the whole team is going to definitely face some wrinkles, Diggs especially, and just the person, the egos, how it all plays out. It definitely will be interesting. But it's just so hard to beat a team twice within the same season, especially when we stole that game from the Bills.
Except for the 20 years we did it to Buffalo pretty much every year.
Right. No, this is a different world.
That was totally special, crazy situation.
Even back then, there were only a few seasons where they were 6-0 in the division.
No, they are. I mean,
most
Miami
of the
was
time
always
they
tough.
at least lost a game in the division. It's hard to beat your division, to go to sweep your division.
Yeah, the Buffalo got them, I think, in 12 maybe up in Buffalo, but I think they had a long. I mean, geez, it's. I mean, everything's just more impressive now in hindsight of just the continued dominance over these teams, and we've talked about now being a fourth place team in the AFC. So let's call it what it is. How do you catch up? How do you, and you can see how those other teams were constantly trying to figure out how to catch the Patriots. And it was just, 3 to 4 season cycles where you'd have a quarterback and a coach and they get hammered by the Patriots probably, how many times. And then you turn it over, they try something else. And, it's just.
Patriots would force them into making decisions before they wanted to.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'd make bad decisions because of the urgency.
It's hard, too. You think about the Patriots went 10 years without winning a Super Bowl, and, there was never really a feeling that, should we blow this up? Not blow it up, but like Alex was saying about Buffalo, where, look, they've been pretty good. They haven't gotten to the Super Bowl yet, but they've, fought hard up to the AFC Championship game, and they have a lot of talent, and they're put together well. But it's hard to make that case. And as Alex laid out, McDermott being on the hot seat maybe if they missed the playoffs. And, I guess the Patriots never missed the playoffs. And if they did, you had good reason to believe, in 08, but they didn't have Brady, but that was it. Otherwise they were pretty much in contention unless they got upset by the Jets.
A terrible season is losing in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, well, what were the worst seasons? We're losing to the Jets in 2010. But, even that team, I think, was overrated. Just they overachieved. And, I hate that. My dad once said that to my college hockey coach. I think you guys overachieved this year. I'm like, Dad, don't say that to the coach. He's going to go nuts hearing that, that we overachieved, that we weren't that good. But I think that 2010 Patriots team and even the 2011 team.
Well, I think Rex Ryan was a very good defensive coach, and he had the Patriots number that in that particular game. He knew exactly what he's going to do. They executed right. And I think the Patriots kind of, they had just slaughtered them.
Yeah.
And I think they got caught by surprise.
And the game unfolded perfectly for the Jets.
It was one of those games where Brady was frustrated. Things weren't working the way they were supposed to work. I remember that game vividly.
Well, the 09 team, they got exposed by Buffalo or by Baltimore. Those teams, I don't think that you really truly believed that they were true contenders. You just had Brady and you had Belichick, and you knew that they would give everybody pretty much a hard time. But that 2009 game where Baltimore came out, like you blinked and it was 21-0.
That was over in the first quarter,
right?
Yeah.
But again, funny that in retrospect, like I remember being down like whatever it was, 21-0 the Ravens. And then like 28-3 happens, and then you're like is 21-0 that bad? Like I think like if that game had happened after 28-3, you'd be like, all right, it's 21-0, but like you never know, we'll get something going. Like we did 28-3.
Well, but the difference was in that Falcons game, they were kind of moving the ball.
Yeah.
And it just
it was
you felt like they were on the brink of kind of getting things together.
Yeah.
In the Ravens game, no,
never. I mean, it was
they were getting beaten every aspect of the game.
And I mean, I love Paul's story about walking out of the door right here and hearing Ray Lewis just give the pump up speech before that game and looking at Andy being like, oh boy, this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
But that was, the Ravens' time, and especially in 2012, that was, that team coming together. And hey, look, Joe Flacco's still doing great.
Yeah. All right, 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket hotline. Web radio at Patriots.com is the email address. You listen to Bill today, and
smiling, laughing.
You wouldn't know that.
A couple jokes.
According to Giardi, he had a report that Bill's kind of indicated to some people downstairs that he's not certain about the future.
Yep.
But you wouldn't know it from today. And I talked to somebody, over in football. They said, I mean, spirits are up.
Yeah.
People aren't walking around with their head down. They're going about doing their job the same way they have. It's business as usual down there.
Like we have a laundry list of complaints about Bill, and people call in and give their laundry list too. But I think one thing I have always respected about him, and one of the things I think makes him just a great coach, is just his ability to compartmentalize things and focus on one day at a time. And it's super annoying to the media sometimes when they want to look ahead or they want to look back. But I think that's one of his true powers as a coach, is the ability to stay in the moment and to and I think it's really important for any coach to not get carried away with what could or would happen. It's what can we do today, and I think he's maintained that. I would bet if you're in that locker room, it's not that much different than it was if you inversed the record and they had won 14 games or whatever their record's at now.
In other news, tonight is the night the Pro Football Hall of Fame committee announces their 15 finalists.
Yeah.
And Rodney Harrison and Vince Wilfork are among those who could be in that group. So we'll see what happens.
Rodney's got to get in. I mean, I just no disrespect.
Well, at least
to Vince,
to the finalists, yeah.
But he's got to get to the final. He's been. I think this is his third year as a semifinalist. So this would be his first year getting to the finals. And
it's a tough crop this year. There's some good names. There's some really good ones.
He's a good name. I go back to Scott Pioli a few weeks ago tweeted out just a comparison. To some of the other safeties that are in the league. And it's just like how this guy is one of two players that has 50 sacks and 50 interceptions. I mean, and we all know here what he meant to this team. And, you lose Lawyer Malloy, but then you almost get Lawyer Malloy intensity +1 with Rodney Harrison. And, the intensity that, again, in the 03 podcast, talking to some of those guys that, the second he walked on, he was serious about practice. He was serious, just like Tom was. And I think that, he helped push that defense, not in a different direction, but he pushed them, in a way that they needed to be pushed to get to that level.
Yeah, he was the perfect guy for Bill, just like Tom was, because he held other guys accountable. First in, last out, making practices really competitive. Some of the exchanges that he had with Brady in practices are legendary.
Yeah.
They just got on each other's nerves. More Rodney getting on Tom's nerves. But he would be on guys who weren't in the weight room early. He was perfect guy for Bill to be one of those locker room sheriffs.
Yeah, look, everyone's going to jump down my throat, and if Paul was here, he would laugh. But Jabril Peppers, it's similar to me, the way that he is intense and the energy that he's brought, especially this year as he's emerged as a leader. And I think it gives guys more of the okay to kind of feed off of that. Last year he was kind of behind the scenes. He was a role player. He was making plays on special teams, but he knew, and coming off an injury, and even he admitted that he wasn't quite himself just yet. But now year in the system, has confidence in himself, and it's just a similar thing. You see how some of these free agents can come in and just change the dynamic of the defense. And I think that this was a very good defense and they were intense, but at the same time I think Peppers with his playmaking ability that backs it up. It's not just, hey, I'm a tough guy who wants to play and is going to be flying to the ball, but I'm also guys that makes game-changing plays. And, they've had some of those guys, Tavai, emerge. And so I think, those are guys that you can feel a little good about. Not to say he's on the Rodney Harrison path, but I see him as a similar kind of leader.
Yep. What else? Anything before we go to the emails and callers?
No.
Small little nugget, but it looks like the Broncos are going to be benching Russell Wilson.
Oh, wow.
Season.
We broke Russell.
Oh, because he's hurt?
Steady.
Because they don't want to get him hurt the next 2 games. I don't know.
Wow. That's kind of
that
interesting.
just came out right when we started.
I'd love to hear, again, not to keep bringing Paul up, but I mean, he said he wasn't impressed with him. I mean, he just, he thought a lot of it was just Russell Wilson not playing well. So, weird season for them, though.
It's just insane. They're very actively fighting for the playoff spots right now, too. So it's like.
Yeah, so are they conceding or the playoff spot?
Or do they think Stidham gives them a better chance?
I can't believe that. I mean, as bad as, Paul might think Russell Wilson is, he was the only reason they got back in that game.
Yeah.
He figured out how to avoid the rush, give himself time, and made some plays. That said, no, Russell Wilson hasn't been playing well, but they got no shot without him.
I know. Well, I mean, we'll finally get a look at Jared Stidham, who will go back
some
to
other
2020.
quarterback news. Tyrod Taylor's going to start for the Giants, and old friend Jacoby Brissett's going to start for the Commanders.
Love that for him.
Yeah, he's been playing pretty well. He's still a guy I would consider next year if you're looking for kind of a bridge guy, but somebody that you don't want to have to pay as a true starter, but could keep the seat warm, could win you a couple games maybe, but without like giving the illusion that, hey, this is the guy. Which this is another thing we've gotten into with Cousins and paying those guys. What are you going to pay them? What's the role going to be? And I don't know. After yesterday's talk, though, I'm still kind of curious what happens with Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Like, do they keep him? Do they let him compete? Do they have to get him out? Do they give him a fresh chance? Does Mac want to get it? Does Mac kind of ask for a trade? I think that's possible too.
It's funny because when Lamar Jackson came in the league, they said, he can't last. He's, that's the style quarterback. He's going to get hurt all the time. Now when you look at the league, he's like other than Josh Allen, he's like the last man standing in terms of like health.
Right, pretty much.
For the top tier quarterbacks.
I mean, and then Joe Burrow, who everybody
he's
says
hurt.
The second year.
Trevor Lawrence is hurt now. Mahomes, he's not hurt, but his feelings are hurt. Like all the other top quarterbacks are hurting right now.
Did you see that picture of Brittany Mahomes and Taylor Swift at the end of the game? Like Taylor Swift's kind of like consoling Brittany Mahomes, and they both just look like horrified. Like, I don't know. I'm waiting with bated breath for the turning of the Swifties against the Chiefs fans and the Chiefs fans against the Swifties.
Oh, it's happening.
And,
I saw the tweets this
Yoko
week.
Swift.
Yeah, Yoko Swift.
All the stats that were like, since they started dating, the Chiefs have this losing record, and it's like they've been dating all season.
Well, we saw it with Tom and Giselle, and that was, a big part of that 10-year gap was I think he met her in like 2006, and that was a big thing with, and then it was, he can't throw the ball, and it was
My
just,
husband cannot throw and catch the ball
if you don't like that team, it's just the gift that keeps on giving because you just get, you have someone in the spotlight to continue to kind of throw in there.
All right. With Paul out here, we have a lot more time to talk.
Yeah, thank gosh.
Because
get some thoughts off your chest
and
Evan's
oxygen to
not
breathe.
Here too.
But let's go to the phones, the Ace Ticket Hotline. We'll start with Jeremy in Saskatchewan.
Oh, Jeremy.
Canada, you can't be on hold for more than 8 minutes, and they shut you off, so apparently. Let's go to Colleen in Houston. What's up, Colleen?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey.
Love you all.
Love you.
Love the show. So I'm homesick right now, so I'm feeling a little sentimental. And remembering in 2019 when we knew it'd be Brady's last season, and he was just grumpy in every single press conference.
Yep.
And this is probably Belichick's last season, and he's not that grumpy. No. And so I'm just wondering if you guys are feeling nostalgic like me, like just appreciating everything he's given to us, and when he's a little fun sometimes. And also, just side note, Travis Kelce's play being blamed on Taylor Swift is ridiculous. But anyway, that's it.
All right. Thanks, Colleen. It's an interesting, Brady was the most depressed 8-0 quarterback ever that season, because he kind of knew what was coming down the line, and he was taking it personally. You know, like, this team isn't respecting me, and in many different ways. You know, contract, players around me, and despite them being 8-0, he knew it was kind of smoke and mirrors.
It's a really good contrast.
Yeah,
you know,
and he showed it. He wore it on his sleeve. Whereas Bill, you know, could maybe thinking the same thing, where, you know, the Crafts don't respect me. You know, the fact that they're not backing me up in public or anything like that. But I don't think that. Obviously, he doesn't have the same type of outward emotion that Brady does. He's, like you said, Deuce, he can compartmentalize.
Yeah.
And I also think, and I said it a couple weeks ago, if I'm Bill Belichick, I'm kind of excited about the future.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 72. For 72, I think he's in good health.
Yeah.
You know, physically. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
If he wants to coach a team, he can do that. If he wants to go into broadcasting, he can do that. He can go coach lacrosse. He can do whatever. Like, the world's his oyster.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd be kind of excited if I was him. On the other hand, like, you know, the Patriots, that was, you know, a big history that he has here that, you know, might be ending.
Yeah.
But knowing, you know, the way Bill operates, he can compartmentalize that and not show it like Brady did.
Especially talking to the media, who are all actively, you know, reporting that he's out. Or,
I mean,
like,
for all we know, Belichick wants to get out of here just as much as Brady did.
Yeah.
But he's not going to show it like Brady showed it.
That's a really, really good contrast. I mean, I kind of felt it when he did the Hall of Fame induction, and he was talking about Dante and that really funny bit. And, you know, you realize how charming and entertaining he can be. He was great on the top 100 NFL show. That he was nominated for an Emmy for. And yeah, I feel it a little bit too. I don't know how, you know, there's a lot of anger towards him right now, but like, we as fans have to compartmentalize. I can't say that word. I'm never gonna be able to say it.
A lot of syllables.
You know, but also just appreciating him, and, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that you know, no one's trying to say that all the Super Bowls were all because of him, but he sure played a part in it. And I think it's worth illustrating the struggles of some of these teams. Like, you know, look at Kansas City right now. I mean, I think a couple years ago we were all just ready. Well, okay, Kansas City's going to be a dynasty for a while. They're going to win a bunch of games, but it's really hard. And as much as, you know, people want to give Tom every last bit of credit for it, Bill put those teams together. And, you know, they had some warts, but they were able to overcome them. And you know, even when you have a great coach, you know, we want to dub Andy Reid now. He's the greatest coach of all time. Like, it's really hard to sustain success, and I'm sorry, like, it's not going to happen like that again. And unless you want to say that Tom Brady is just so much better than Peyton Manning, than Patrick Mahomes, than all these other quarterbacks who are great, you have to give some credit elsewhere for why it lasted for as long as it did, unless you want to just say that Tom Brady is absolutely head, shoulder, waist, knees above everybody else, that it was all him for 20 years. Like, it's hard to cycle those teams.
And when you're in charge of everything, people, you know, that don't work on the inside like us think it's coaching, it's scouting, it's drafting, you know, personnel stuff. But there's so much more to running a football organization. Everything from, you know, how do my assistant coaches get their film after the game, to travel arrangements. You know, not that Bill's making him, but he has to make sure that all of that stuff is working. Who's my equipment manager? How do I handle equipment? How do I handle training and rehab and all that stuff?
Yeah.
You know, a good example is when Brady was here and Alex Guerrero all of a sudden popped on the scene. And as, you know, the TB12 brand started, you know, gaining traction, Brady was recruiting guys, hey, come on up to my facility. And they were getting, you know, advice that was counter to what the Patriots strength and conditioning people were giving. And that's not good. And Bill had to step in there, you know, that, no, you can't do that anymore. You know, our guys are telling him to do this. This is what they need. This is what they have to do.
Yeah.
And again, that goes into the whole thing of when you're the GM of everything, when you're the czar of everything, all those little details have to be paid attention to. And it's hard for one guy, but Bill did it for 23 years.
I mean, just entirely different teams that they won with, other than, Tom. Everybody else was pretty much different than.
That's probably one of the hardest things, is just managing all these different personalities, these egos, and kind of just keeping them in check to maintain the culture that you had here. That was team first. It's not individual success here. And I mean, we're seeing it with the Chiefs. We see it with the Bills. These windows are just like, they're starting to close, and you see drama play out. And we had a lot of leaks this year, and but it was so abnormal.
Yeah, and people think, when you're winning, it's easy. No, it isn't.
No,
it's a different type of hard. You win that Super Bowl, and all of a sudden, guys get entitled, and they got their hands out. And it's not just the players.
Yeah,
it's the coaches, it's the staff, the support staff that. Where's mine?
Yeah.
I now I've got a Super Bowl. I'm going to move on. I'm going to, coaches get better jobs. There's a lot of things that make it complicated when you win like they did. That makes it really hard to keep it together, and that's why really good teams haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, I wish I could remember. It was sometime in the last year. I think it might have been at the Combine when Josh McDaniels was interviewed, and he talked a little bit more in detail about when he came back. After the Indy debacle, when he came back and it was like, Bill's going to open his world to you. But I forget exactly, but it was kind of like what you said. But he was pointing out even more minutia that the head coach has to decide and to figure out. And those were the things that, Josh was embracing. I don't know how much good it did him, unfortunately. But that, that was what was striking to me, all the details that you have a hand in. And, ultimately it's I've said it 100 times on the show, but I mean, in my one season of coaching club hockey, like, it's hard to get a bunch of people to play together the way you want and to play, in the biggest moments and deliver. And it's just such a challenge. And again, like, I have to put all these disclaimers out because I can probably hear people listening to this getting like, how dare he give Bill like nice flowers, like, But he's a good coach. I don't know what the percentage is of how much he's responsible for these wins.
He's
but
a good coach and he's a good manager.
Yeah.
He has flaws.
Yeah.
He has flaws. How and why he chooses certain players, and how he plays them and how he treats them, but when you add it up, there's nobody better overall.
Yeah, I mean, and to nerd out a little bit, and Evan was there too on Friday. Bill just went in like he was asked by Kevin Stone. From New England Football Journal, just about his he coached in Denver, I think, in like 77.
Yeah, it turned into a
soliloquy.
Yeah.
And then it turned into like, how he kind of made his 3-4 defense. And like, these are me personally, like, these are the things I love. I love defensive talk and scheme and, the evolution of the different defenses and the techniques that they use and stuff. And so, it's just like when he's talking like that, like, there's no one else in the football universe I would rather be listening to telling you all about the history and the evolution of how things came about. So, I still have a ton of respect for him. And, it's unfortunate what's going to happen here maybe in the offseason. And I just hope it's, we're able to come to just an understanding with, the fans out there who are frustrated with the team, and we're frustrated too. But at the same time, once we get past this, we'll be able to all say, hey, we were really lucky to have that guy. And it was an awesome run. And, we're glad that he's ours and that he's a Patriot.
Patty's in Agawam. What's up, Patty?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hey.
Happy New Year.
Merry New Year.
Lionel Joseph.
I wanted to go over a couple things. I'll give Bill his flowers too. I mean, I think it's time for him to move on. But what he did for this organization is definitely not lost on me. And if he's not done coaching, I hope he goes somewhere where he can succeed and at least break the record. If not, when maybe a championship.
Yeah.
Because I don't hate the guy. I love what he did. And just a couple more quick things. Rodney Harrison absolutely 100% belongs in the NFL Hall of Fame. Been saying it for years. I drew the correlation of when Aeneas Williams went into the Hall before Ty Law. Like, I can't believe Brian Dawkins is in and Rodney Harrison isn't. Not to knock Brian Dawkins, but I'm sorry. That era, it was Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, and Rodney Harrison, and everyone else behind those guys. And I'm one of the guys that I'd like to see Zappe return next year, because I really think he showed me something. I'm not banking on him to be the starter or to win the starting job, but I mean, you look at what he did when Trent Brown went out of the game, and I mean, he has something. He has a little bit of moxie, and he can move around and doesn't look scared like he's going to poop his pants like Mac did,
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting if and thanks for the call, Patty. If somehow he wins the last 2 games, Zappe, if the Patriots get any calls of teams that are interested in him.
Yeah. Well, we should be interested.
Well,
I mean, I think that's
but I mean, like let's just say the Patriots have other designs. Well, if they win the last 2 games, they're probably going to be down to pick 8 or something.
God, no.
But let's say they have an idea of who they're going to get for quarterback, and it's not Zappe. I wonder if they'd be open to trading him. Yeah,
and that's just like what's hard for me with how much work needs to be done on this team, and it's hard to bang the table to invest in things that probably aren't going to matter when this team is good again. And so I would want to be very careful about what I did at the quarterback position. I wouldn't, I want to set the table for that person, who's going to be the eventual starter. But I don't want to, they've got a lot of money tied up in receivers that probably are a little bit overpaid right now. I think you need to, reassess that. You have no tight ends next year on the roster. You have no tackles. So those are important positions. I mean, tackle's hard. I mean, I was talking to Evan about it. I'm sure when he gets here we can chat about it. But I know there are people out there that just don't care. And they'll be like, hey, just find a tackle, throw him in there. But I think this season's illustrated that, look, they need at least one really good tackle. And it's hard to say how they could even do that in free agency. So, there's a lot of pieces to be made, and hopefully they can put it together. And, another thing I was talking to Evan about was just you had this, innate confidence when you had Dante Scarnecchia and, some of the coaches that have been here forever. And you just said, hey, even if we can't get a blue-chip guy, we believe our coaching staff can coach them up to a level that will be enough to be competitive and to have a top 10, top 15 offense. But I just don't think we have that confidence right now, whether it's this current staff coming back or if it's the next staff. I mean, with Adrian Clem going out, the tumultuous nature of the offensive line has continued. And go back to when Dante left. I mean, it's been a rotating bunch of coaches there, and now it was like you thought you had stability this year. And now Adrian Clem is out, and you have, now you're on to Billy Yates, really. So there just has been no continuity along that offensive line coaching since Dante left, and I think that's part of the problem too. Even if Adrian Clem was able to be here for a full season and get things under into his liking, that you'd probably start to see some progress. But I think it's been a challenge.
Evan is coming in.
Evan has returned from
Evan
interviews.
Is back from Zappe. Evan. And he's back from Zappe.
What did Zappe say? Did he fish or hunt?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
So
hello,
just before we get to Evan, Alex mentioned that the Broncos are benching Wilson. Andrew in L.A. writes in, this is per report from Ian Rappaport. He says that they're doing it to preserve financial flexibility for the team this offseason. Wilson has $37 million in 2025 salary that vests in March of 2024, and if he suffered a serious injury, it would complicate matters, per Rappaport.
Yeah, so basically the Raiders did the same thing with Derek Carr last year. If Russ were to play this week and tear his ACL and he wouldn't pass a physical next spring, then they would owe him this money.
Right, but do they not care about making the playoffs? They've written that off. Yeah,
they realize.
It's about money.
It's about money and about the fact that Russell Wilson's probably not going to be a Denver Bronco next year. So the easiest way out of his contract.
But they've basically conceded the playoff race.
Yes, I think that they probably see that they're not winning the Super Bowl. So at that point, what's really.
Oh, so would you want Russell Wilson here at the Patriots?
No.
Oh.
So maybe the Broncos are one of those teams in the offseason that inquire about Bailey Zappe.
I think they're definitely in the quarterback market.
Yeah.
I don't know if Bailey Zappe's the quarterback.
He just beat him.
McCorkle.
Yeah.
So what did young Bailey have to say?
Yeah, some interesting answers from Bailey Zappe. I think a lot of it was about this environment, playing in Buffalo on the road, different type of thing. As much, no disrespect to Pittsburgh and Denver, which are tough road environments as well, but this is, I think, a different beast. I mean, Fred, we'd drive in and they're throwing stuff at the buses and flipping us off,
so mean.
And that's just they don't even know, I guess, that we're not actually players on the team, but
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
A lot of mooning.
Yeah, they see Patriots bus and they're throwing eggs at it or something like that. So that was, I think, something that he's trying his best to kind of mentally prepare for the fact that there's going to be some a pretty rowdy crowd there on Sunday, and also talking a little bit about some of the things that he's trying to correct from the Denver game. Talked about a few misreads that he had in the game and things of that nature. So he owns up to those things. I'll give him that. He comes right out and says, I should have hit Pharaoh Brown on this big play that I missed, and things like that. So we'll see if he makes those improvements.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a weird practice today, too. They moved it just to the bubble at 3. Or, sorry, the Socios.com field house. Is this still the Socios.com field house? No.
It's not.
Empower?
I take that
no
back.
Free ads.
It was Empower, and then it was Socios.
Well, no, I think the sign for Socios is still up there, but I think they're in the process of changing that.
Yeah.
Bubble because of noise, try to simulate noise.
He was asked about it. I think they're kind of banged up, and we think this probably is like a walkthrough corrections kind of. It'll be quick because locker room's at 4:15, so it's only an hour and 15 practice. It's a quick one. So
the Bills are doing the same thing for what it's worth. I think at this point of the season, it's week 17. Teams are banged up. Guys are got in bumps and bruises. So the Bills are also doing a walkthrough practice today.
But what? Why in the bubble and why not outside?
Is it raining? I don't know.
No, it's not
pretty
raining.
Crazy fog. I don't know how
maybe
that
the fog.
them on
I
the
don't
practice
know. That I
field,
can't
but
answer.
We can't see.
He didn't really want to talk too much about it.
So Evan, we were talking upstairs about Christian Barmore maybe should be the player of the week.
Yes, not the player of the week.
He didn't get it, but I thought you would appreciate who did get it, which is Kyle Hamilton.
Oh yeah, I saw, and Barmore snubbed first of all, snubbed, absolutely snubbed. Sorry that Brock Purdy threw 2 passes right to Kyle Hamilton. Like, oh great, player of the week. So yeah, it just that's a tough one. I thought Barmore was definitely. I mean, they don't release the voting for that sort of thing, so I don't know if Barmore was close to winning it, but I thought that maybe he had a chance.
Is it? I mean, am I crazy to say that he should be the number 1 priority this offseason to re-sign him?
Yes.
That's crazy.
No,
that's crazy.
I agree.
To extend
he should be. He should be a high priority. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I do think that he would be the type of guy that would take an extension before free agency because you want to maximize on the career year, right? You know, I think if you ask Josh Uche now if he would have taken an offer from the Patriots this past offseason instead of testing, kind of betting on himself and testing the market come free agency, he might say that yes, that he would have. And I think with defensive linemen, he has 8.5 sacks this year. Maybe the sacks don't go his way next year and he doesn't have, he has 3 sacks or something like that. I think sacks are not a very stable stat for a lot of guys year to year, especially interior guys. So
I had a thought. Would it be crazy to kind of, if you can't get Uche, or if Uche wants more money, then just kind of put Mack Wilson into that role? He's kind of shown he can do it a little bit. I don't know if he's got the same juice that Uche has. He's probably a little bit older, I would guess. But I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah, I would worry. I mean, it's possible. It's crossed my mind too. Just similar type of get off explosiveness off the edge. But Uche is longer. I feel like he's a little bit bigger, a little bit longer on the edge than Mack Wilson is. I would be very worried if they ran the ball. If it was 3rd and 8 and they just surprised the Patriots with a run off tackle towards Mack Wilson, I would be concerned.
Right.
Whereas with Uche, yes, he's had his issues against the run, but maybe he's a little bit more well versed in playing at the end of the line of scrimmage and can make a stop in that situation.
Just some of those choices you got to make as they try to get things back in order and open up. I was talking a little bit about the tackle discussion of, thinking at least you got to get one, right? You got to get at least a tackle somewhere that you believe is a guy. And like I said, Evan and I were talking about how hard it is to do in free agency. He mentioned McGlinchey, and it's an important thing. And I'm not to say that I'm trying to lead this into the 4th, 5th overall pick kind of conversation, but they have to make it a priority.
We will have it. We should have it because it's a pretty deep tackle draft, but it's top heavy, and so it's deep in the top 50. But once you get outside of the top 50, most people don't really see a ton of future starters outside of the second round, and those top tackles, Joe Alt, Olu-Fashanu, are 2 of the best tackle prospects to come out of the draft in the last couple of years. And you look at those 2 guys, and you do have to think about it because I don't think you can build an offensive line through free agency. I just don't think that that's how it works. It's just not. Usually the good linemen don't make it to free agency. They either get traded or they just stick with their own team. So if you're an offensive lineman that hits the free agent market as an unrestricted free agent, I always say why? Like, what's the catch with you? Because if you're a great starting tackle in the league, then your team is finding a way to keep you.
Another question I have for the panel is, what's the drop-off like from when you at right guard to City So? And, is it comparable? And is that a place where you can save a little money? If you know what I mean? If it's, I don't know how you feel about City So and how he's performing. I mean, he's kind of locked down that right guard spot for a while, and he's on a rookie deal. It's a right guard, which to me is always like if you have one position that you need.
Are you saying maybe that makes Onwenu expendable?
I mean, I just think everything has to be on the table as you try it, and especially if a new coaching staff comes in. If it's not that much of a drop off, and you don't feel like we feel like City's done well, and we feel like he's progressing, it just financially it just makes a lot more sense. And I mean, again, just to finish my point, like. Right guard is the position where I'm like, if you have one position, you just kind of have to figure out. I'd probably choose it to be right guard, like that of everything.
Unless Penix is your quarterback.
Right, and then you're going to need all the protection you get, I guess.
All right, let's get back to the Ace Ticket Hotline. We'll go to Willem in Philly. What's up, Willem? Oh, he gave up on
I made him so mad with my Bill talk that he threw the phone in disgust.
Kendall's in North Carolina. Hey, Kendall.
What's going on, guys?
Hey.
Hey, I got a quick question about Bill. I know the 3 possible landing spots would be Washington, Carolina, and maybe the Chargers. So if let's just say hypothetically, if those teams aren't interested, I mean, could you see Bill being back with the Patriots next year by default, or what? What happens next?
No, I think the organization would have already moved on. So I don't think that's the case. The Patriots would kind of wait to see where he lands, and if he doesn't land, he comes back here. I think once he starts having those interviews, it's done.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll let him keep going. But
I gotta admit, I think Bill might be back next year.
Oh, so you're one of these wishy-washies that all of a sudden
That's not what I want. Like, I've always given my opinion on it.
Honestly, so 3 weeks ago you would have said the same thing.
I think it's a lot easier said than done to look him in the face and fire him.
Well, sure, absolutely. That's not the question, though. I asked you 3 weeks ago. Would you have said you think he's coming back?
No, but probably emotionally no, because to me it was too the product on the field was just so bad that I couldn't see it. I worry, and I say this very delicately since he signs my paycheck. I worry about having the cojones to actually do it. Like, it's one thing to say it. It's one thing in season when they're losing 5 straight in a row and they look terrible in Germany and terrible in New York to sit here and say, this is terrible, we have to move on. And then January 8th comes or whatever it is, and you're sitting across the table from him and he's saying, I want to be back and this is what I'm going to do to make the team better, X, Y, and Z, to then sit there and say, you know what, Bill, thanks for the 25 years, it's 6 Super Bowls, but we're actually going to go in a different direction. Yeah. I'll believe it when I see it.
You're not being influenced by winning the last 2 out of 3
games? No. I mean, yeah, a little bit, but I think that's a fair... I don't think it's fair to be influenced by that, but I think that human nature is to be influenced by it.
But I never questioned his coaching ability. I'd be more surprised if the team wasn't playing hard. All these people are amazed. Oh my God, they're still playing hard for him, and they're still giving 100% effort. I expected that.
Yeah,
but that's not why he's in hot water.
No, and
he's in hot water because of the team that he built.
Right, and that's why I wonder if there's some sort of agreement that they come to about personnel.
Well, listen, I said at the beginning, way a long time ago, my perfect scenario is he acquiesces. He says, okay, I want to coach. That's the most important thing to me. I will, give over the offseason to, another team. What I mean, another group of people, and I will coach the team. I will plan for game day. I'll take the players. We'll collaborate. I'll tell them what kind of players I'd like, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be my decision. If he's willing to do all that, let's go.
Yeah,
let's go. But I just don't see that happening.
I don't see it happening either, and I think ultimately you have to worry about the whole puppet GM thing, where who is actually pulling the strings behind the scenes.
Well, that's where the Crafts have to say, okay, but those new people are our hire.
Right.
They're our people.
Right.
They're not Matt Groh, who now will have more authority. It's are people that answer to us, and they will be talking on a regular basis about how are things going. Why did you make that decision? Whose decision was it? All that thing, and Bill's got to agree to that. And
if you give a GM, and I don't really like this idea because I don't think it can work, because if you hand players off to Bill, then Bill's going to do whatever he wants with the player, like whether it's playing him at a position or it's not playing him at all because he doesn't like the skill set or whatever. If he's the coach of the team and with his cachet, if you draft a receiver in the second round that has a certain skill set that he doesn't run block well or doesn't run routes well, then he's just going to sit him on the bench, right? Yeah. And that I think is a difficult thing, but I just wonder if maybe emotion gets the better of it, or just loyalty gets the better of it, and they try to find like a middle ground that isn't kicking the best coach in the history of the league out the door.
Yeah. It's kind of what I said yesterday. That's the easy thing would just be to stick with him. I mean, that's that's the easy thing. That's why to me it's easy to keep Bill. It's a little bit harder, but still pretty easy to keep Mayo and keep the general kind of structure around. The hardest thing is to completely wipe the slate clean and have a whole new bunch of guys with a whole new philosophy. Go back to all the things you said, Fred, about the minutia that goes into coaching. So you're going to establish a whole new program. And then it's kind of all bets are off for probably, I would say, maybe 90% of the players currently on the roster, because you don't know how they're going to fit. I mean, a guy like Barmore, I think he fits anywhere. But, even a guy like Juwan Bentley, who's a leader of this team, he's a very specific Belichick, Mayo type of player. Jelani Tavai, Belichick, Mayo type of player. Another coach comes in, he might say, look, I want a Matt Milano. I want a different kind of, and now we're just in a full rebuild. So I think that's all on the table, but it's just from the ownership perspective, what's the hardest thing to do, especially when, you want to still have control. You want to have a relationship with the people running the game. So now, Robert Kraft's going to have to establish a new relationship with the GM. And
you're just trying to mentally prepare myself for the fact that he might be back next year. And if that's the case, what are like the parameters of that would make me happy? And I think the first thing is what Fred said. You need to have a general manager that answers to the Crafts, not to Bill. A general manager that answers to the Crafts and has control of the 90-man roster. Like that's item number one. Item number two, I would allow Bill O'Brien to hire his own staff. Like the fact that Bill O'Brien's been basically saddled with this like makeshift offensive coaching staff that was like part Josh McDaniels' staff, part his, like, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So allow him, if he thinks Vinny Cinciari's the best running backs coach for the job, then he keeps Vinny Cinciari. But I can't imagine that some of those guys would all be safe if that was the case. Yeah. So let him go out and make his own hires on the offensive staff, and let's see where it goes. So like those types of big things would have to happen for me to be okay with it. But I feel like we have to prepare for all scenarios. We can't just assume that he's going to be gone.
No. I mean, even if he came back, there'd have to be some kind of changes to sell the general public on, this is what we're going to do. I mean, I like Evan's idea. I mean, Will Long, one of his guys, but Vinny, Troy Brown. I mean, and I also brought up the, just the continued difficulties at offensive line coach.
But what if the new GM wants a new offensive coordinator? Whose hire is the coordinators? Is that Bill's or the GM's?
Well, yeah, I mean that usually that would be the coach's hire,
right?
So right. I think that's part of it too, but I don't think that they gave Bill O'Brien enough control of the offensive coaching staff. Like the fact that they hired a new offensive coordinator and they said, here's your staff. Like that's not normally how I feel like that should be going. And I think that they'll play on the field reflects the fact that, they probably could be better in certain coaching positions on this, team other than just head coach. And I look at Adrian Clem as like an easy out at this point because he's not even here, like with the team. So if you feel like he wasn't doing a good job and then he kind of goes MIA because of his health, then you said that's an easy out. All right, next guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I ran down. It was, Dante left after 18. Yeah. Then it was Popovich and the guy in Vegas, Brasillo.
Yep.
Then it was just Brasillo, right, for the COVID year.
And 21.
Then it was Matty P in 22, and now it was started at Adrian Clem. Now it's just kind of Billy Yates. I mean, it's
not good.
It's not the continuity that we had established here for a long time. No. Even though Dante's a great coach, I think continuity speaks volumes, especially when it's a veteran coach who's been doing it.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, Deuce. Like the harder thing is to blow it up because everything changes. When Bill came in, like we've been so spoiled because for 23 years, the continuity and consistency is something you didn't have to worry about. But when Bill first got here, like, he wanted his own PR person. He wanted everything his. Like, it was a total, rebranding, restructuring of the whole team. And, you saw 2000 was a terrible season.
Yeah.
Until they got it together. But it's going to take a while if you blow it up. So I could see the Kraft saying, well, there's just some changes we want to make, but, let's keep most of it in place because that part of it isn't broken.
And don't rule out, they got a ton of money in free agency. They got, really high draft capital. So, I mean, there are some things to say. There are ways to get talent without having to blow things up. But I would just say, for me, I do not see them taking personnel away from him. I don't see it happening in any context. It's that makes things easy but complicated. And what are we talking about? Like 2 or 3 off seasons that this person will be selecting play? Like, is that really going to make that much of a difference? The disconnect, as Evan was pointing out, between what Bill wants to coach and what this guy, like, I cannot see him accepting that and being like, look, you're not going to take this away from me like I'm a child now, and you're going to,
it's like putting him in timeout.
Yeah.
And
okay,
if he
but what
does want to leave, what incentive is there to stay?
Right. It just depends on how much he wants to coach.
You're neutering him. I mean, you're just saying, like, we'll see you we'll see you at training camp. Like. Put the team together.
Yeah, go to Nantucket. We'll see you in OTAs, Bill. Thanks.
That's the extreme. But aren't there other teams with that arrangement?
Sure, but not like when the coach has been here for 23 years, and then all of a sudden you're going to say, actually, you're not getting to do it anymore. Where, like, I'd rather just fire him. And like, I don't see him accepting it. I don't see it making sense. I don't see it producing the kind of results that we think it will.
And when things go wrong, they can just scapegoat each other between the GM
right,
and
then
Bill.
you'll have them playing off against each other, and if he coached him up the way I wanted it, I don't know.
It's a very messy situation, but I could definitely see it happening. Like, I have a hard time seeing it working, but I definitely can see it happening.
How does Pete Carroll do it over in Seattle with Schneider? Right?
It's pretty. What's the word? Together. Yeah. They do it together.
Right. Like, okay.
Right, but then if we get into like they're going to do it together, then where does the
Bill
line
can't come in the room when it's draft day?
When they're picking an offensive player.
I want.
It's going to be like Moneyball, where Billy Bean is like trading.
Right.
What was it? The first baseman.
Right. I mean that's obviously the biggest risk.
Traded.
That's totally.
Yeah. I mean he can acquire talent on defense. Like I think that's pretty clear. Their defensive picks recently have been. Christian Barmore, draft pick. Kyle Duggar, draft pick. I think Keon White is starting to make an impact here in the second half of the season. I think Marty Mapu can have a role in some capacity.
Yeah, Christian Gonzalez.
Right, Gonzalez looked great out of the gate. Like those are all Bill draft picks. It's the offensive side of the ball that he's just totally out of touch with. So that's why if you have a new personnel guy that's drafting offense and he's giving guys to Billy O, who's giving guys to his own staff, like you can kind of sell somebody on that being a better operation than what it is now. But Bill cannot pick offense. So you can't have him picking the quarterback. You can't have him picking receivers. Like whatever grading system they use on wide receivers can be thrown out the window and never come back. Like that's the bottom line.
All right. Time to take a break. We'll do that. And Paul, we'll send Paul's food over to 98.5, and we'll be right back after this.
Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable.
Merry Christmas to you and yours for this holiday football matchup on Christmas Eve. As Andrew snaps and play action fake. A deep drop by Zappe. He's under a rush. The ball's back loose as he's sacked and is picked up by the Broncos. Rolling to the 5-yard line. They're going to say now with Denver recovering. DJ Jones, the nose tackle, in his 7th year out of Ole Miss. And it is a disastrous start for New England. First down, Denver. They're going to go for it on the Broncos on a 4th and goal from the 2. Williams to his right. Wilson with a head up. Williams ran into a teammate, stumbled and fell to the right. Landing at the 1. And the Patriots with a goal line stand.
You deserve it. You deserve it, Sean Payton. You take the points. You got a freebie, 1st and goal, and your offense just choked. Great job, Patriots defense.
Wilson with the give. Williams runs it right. Burrowing forward, slithering in, up the middle for a touchdown, Denver.
It's good effort right there. It's all him. Ran hard there on that drive. At some point, it's going to give. Can't give them the ball inside the 10. 3 times in the plus territory to start the football game. Defense can only do so much.
Shotgun snap. Zappe pressure. Throws it left. Downfield. Open is Rager. Runs away from a tackler. But then he stepped out of bounds. He had an open sideline ahead, but slightly off balance. He sidesteps left to the Bronco 33.
This was similar to the touchdown catch in Pittsburgh by Hunter Henry. Cover 2, and Zappe sees it get past the City corner, and he zigs it in there. What a throw, back shoulder to Rager. That's a hell of a throw by Zappe.
Shotgun snap to Wilson. Being blitzed by Mills. Got it off to the left flat. Caught by Williams. And he falls on a hit by Tavai. Loose ball at the 40-yard line. And the scramble continues with the Bronco lineman who's seemingly had the best shot at it after Tavai knocked the ball out from Javonte Williams.
We got it.
Now the Patriots say they recovered. The officials will concur. He does come away with the football. And it's Dietrich Wise at the bottom of the pile for New England, along with Jeremiah Barr.
It's great pressure on Wilson and forces him to flip this quicker than he wanted to. And what an opportunistic defense.
Shotgun snap to Wilson. He's on the ball. And the ball is loose. And Wilson falls on it with Matt Wilson again in the backfield, wreaking havoc for the Patriots. In on his 3rd sack in as many weeks. Christian Barmore nearly had the fumble, but Wilson falls on it to preserve the possession and set up a punt by Denver.
Wilson had one of the biggest pressures and tackles against Pittsburgh to secure that one. This one, he gets around the edge and knocks it down. The effort is there with this football team. They're still playing ball.
The snap is in place. A swing of the right leg, clearing the line. The kick airborne to the uprights, and the kick is no good. Well wide to the right.
What a terrible year he's having. That's horrible.
Now 14 of 22. And now Will Lutz will try a 57-yard field goal. The snap delivered, placed the swing of the right leg, kick clears the line, a low line drive. It's headed to the crossbar, and it's no good. Shotgun snap to Wilson. Pressure. The ball comes in from the blind side, almost unblocked. And he takes down Wilson for his 4th sack in the last 5 games. The 3rd-year defensive tackle out of Alabama continues to impress.
You know, it's a bad football being played by some teams, and I know we're 3-11. I keep talking about the effort. The effort's there. The effort is there. The talent is not.
Snap to Wilson on 3rd and 13. Barmore. Wraps up Wilson. Spins him down. Another sack for Christian Barmore.
Defense is kicking their tail in.
The snap to Wilson. He drops back. Here comes Barmore. There goes Barmore. Yeah. He's got it down. Ball is loose. Barmore diving toward the pile.
We got it.
Reaching for it. In the midst of 3 Broncos, Patriots players say New England has it. Mapu is down there as well. The officials say it belongs to Denver.
Is that his 4th sack? Is that 5? He's a beast. He can't block him right now.
A hat trick tonight on his own. That's his 3rd of the evening.
Oh, man.
As he takes the snap, drops back, flares it right, catch by Elliott, one-on-one, hurdles the defender at the 10, dives to the pylon. Touchdown, Patriots!
How about that drive to open the half by Bailey Zappe? Trying to fix those second-half woes that have been around for 2 weeks now. You come out swinging, you make a big play, a 41-yarder to get this drive going, then you find Pop Douglas again, and then it's a perfect call by Billy O'Brien. They run double backs into the backfield, then they motion one guy out left, and then allow Zeke to get to the right, and it's a perfect throw by Bailey to allow Zeke to leap over one of the defenders for a 15-yard touchdown.
Second touchdown catch of the season by Elliott. Second from Zappe in 3 weeks. The high snap from Cardona, the kick by Ryland to the upright, and it hits off the left upright. It's no good. A missed extra point by Chad Ryland. A high snap. Behringer got it down. Ryland lifting the kick off the left upright.
Did they bring the other kicker?
And he has now missed his last 2. He takes the snap against the blitz. He's in trouble. He's backing up.
Got him.
Uche has it. Josh with a sack back at the 29. Boy, it's been a long time coming for Josh Uche to rack up another sack for New England.
I think Bill ain't trying third timeout on 3rd and 9 to make sure you get the right personnel, right call, you dial up a blitz. Great call, and keep him in the pocket, that's the key. Try to spin out. But Uche and Mills, who blitzed off that edge, have leverage. They kept him in, good sack.
Zappe drops back. Got running room to the right. He throws to the back of the end zone. Touchdown, Gesicki! New England expanding its lead. Bailey Zappe didn't run it. He slung it, and he found Mike Gesicki for the touchdown, his second of the season.
Oh, man, Zappe on the move here. I mean, cool as a cucumber. Pockets collapsing. He slides up. I go running. There was room to run. No. He knew where the line of scrimmage was, and he waited. He waited for Gesicki to clear on that back end line, run under the goalpost, and it's a dime.
The run-up and the swing of the leg by Weiland. His kick is driven toward Mims. He taps his chest. He's going to return it. No, he's going to drop it. Picks it up at the 4. Runs to the left hash. Marquette. Ball knocked loose. It's picked up by New England.
Touchdown.
It's a touchdown, Patriots. Covered up by Cody Davis. A bump initially. A momentary recovery. And then Cody Davis, after the ball was knocked free, covering up in the end zone. Mims ran it left. The ball was knocked out by Marquette Mafu. That's his second takeaway in as many weeks. And Davis falls on it for a New England touchdown.
Great call, Bob. Great call. You got an ass kicking on Christmas Eve in Denver. Taking place right now, this third quarter. I mean, it was 7-3 at halftime. Look at the unanswered points. Look at the energy on the bench. Don't think this team's quitting.
Wilson looking to throw. He rolls out right, chased by Uche, going backwards, throws to the end zone, jump ball and it's caught. Touchdown Denver. He tossed it up and his tight end made the play. Fronting with the grab, Lucas Kroll able to box out the defender for New England and make the catch in front of Alex Austin. Broncos gonna have to go for 2. Wilson from the gun takes a step, quick throw left for Johnson, runs straight ahead. He's hit by Bryant, but he lunges in. 2-point conversion Denver.
That's the Amendola play.
Yep.
That's the Amendola Edelman play, where you're going for 2 in Super Bowl against Atlanta.
Looks to his left, throws it left. Johnson makes the catch, slips it in, runs to the 5. Johnson to the pylon. Touchdown, Denver. 2-point game. Wilson rolls out right, flips it to Williams, makes the catch, outruns Bentley into the end zone on his feet. Tie ball game. 23, 2:53 to go.
This game was toast 10 minutes ago.
The rookie from Maryland by way of Eastern Michigan.
Give me a present. Christmas present.
14 of 22 this season. Come on. He's missed 4 of his last 7 field goal tries. 6. He will have an opportunity from straight on, 56 yards away from victory for the Patriots. Cardona over the football. Merringer's right knee is down. He shows Cardona his right hand. Ryland waits, leaning forward in the stand. The snap, the spot, the kick clears the line. Sailing to the uprights. The kick is good! The kid did it! With 2 seconds to go, Ryland has given the Patriots a 26-23 lead here in Denver. And he's mobbed by his teammates on the far side. And how good must that feel?
It's one hell of a call right there, Bob. Kudos to you, man. Wow, what a kick by the kid. He knew it right away, too. I'm watching him kick it while you're watching the kick, and he's fist pumping the second it left his foot. Watch when he hits it. He knew it right away.
He drove that kick straight down the middle.
Patriots Unfiltered!
All right, back here on Patriots Unfiltered. 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket Hotline. Web radio at patriots.com is the email address. Okay. Some interesting talk in the, yeah.
We're back. We're wondering how Paul's doing over there.
Yeah.
He's carrying the show.
I was listening a little bit between 11 and 11:30, and they were going down memory lane a little bit. So Paul was in his wheelhouse talking about games in like 03 and how they came, played out. And
how Brady came to be according to Bill. Yeah.
So
it's like Paul Light. It's not on here. He's like Paul, but I feel like on there he's a little more like professional radio.
Well, it's like when you get a new girrifriend or you start talking to a new girl, you feel it out.
But this has been a long affair that he's had with this radio station. They've been like this has been his side lady for what, I don't know how long he's been on the hub. That's for a while,
when he goes on
with
with Felger and Maz, I usually listen and he sounds like a different person. Like
he's got to play a little bit more on our side of the street.
Yeah, and they try to like get him riled up, or Felger comes at him with like some crazy Felger hot take, and Paul is just like, very calm, very like, even keeled, and I'm like, this is not PP. Like, what are we doing here?
There's no one better to keep Michael Felger in line than Paul. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he will not flinch if he doesn't like one of, what does he call them, Felger facts? Like, like Paul is the perfect person to like go deal with them and what they do.
He also parrots a lot of what Felger says. Like I listen to sometimes what Paul says in here, and then I'll go on drive home and Felger's saying the exact same thing, so I know like they've emailed,
Well, it's I mean, Paul's got such a long commute. I just think like how much of him has been shaped by just being in his freaking car 2 hours a day, every day, listening to those guys talk. Like it's almost like his training. I feel like, and here's takes that he gets mad about, and he comes in like it's like his workshop every day. But if I had to drive
that with the road rage too,
right? But if I had to drive to Peabody every day to and back, and I mean, and he's like, he's always here. Like, oh boy, that's
and that's a tough ride because of the traffic.
Yeah, like the Mass Pike and 128 every day. You're
that's
like
the
where
thing.
They merge.
I have a long commute, but no one's really going west.
Right,
everyone's going
right. So it's
north
free. You're
south of the
just
city.
driving. Yeah, it's relaxed
for the most part.
Yeah.
So he's gonna hit it at not only like the Mass Pike, but he's gonna hit it like Route 2, then like Burlington. Like I mean, there's traffic stops at every single.
This week has
spot.
been beautiful.
Oh yeah.
There's no traffic because nobody is going into the office this week. I got here this morning in like 28 minutes. It was fantastic.
You could move closer, Evan. I mean, it's
no,
not you guys
not allowed.
I mean,
All right, let's get back to the phones on the Ace Ticket Hotline, 855-PATS-500. Let's see. Jay in Minnesota has been hanging on. What's up, Jay? Jay in Minnesota.
Hey, Jay.
Going once?
Okay.
Boy, these people.
We lost him.
Willem and Phillum is back. He's giving it another shot. What's up, William?
Hey, Fred. How you doing?
All right.
All right. Is Evan here?
Yeah, he's here. Yep.
I get a chance to talk to this guy for a minute. There you go. Evan, I missed. Well, I saw your take yesterday. I listened to you, but you had to step out for a minute. So I want to ask you. So, it's retaining towards the draft. So if you sitting at number 4, and you say you don't want to trade up because you got to use draft capital, well, my only pushback is, well, if you want that quarterback, what are you supposed to do then?
Yeah, I don't like these quarterbacks enough to trade what the Panthers just like. Do you think the Panthers are in good shape? Like they traded it future first round picks for Bryce Young, and they're going to have the first overall pick again, except, oh, wait, they don't have it. So now what are they supposed to do? Like, it just, if you're a team that's not a quarterback away from competing, and I don't think the Patriots are a quarterback away from competing, then giving up a king's ransom to move up in the draft for a quarterback, like where you're going to be the Carolina Panthers. That's my only point.
Yeah.
True. Okay. All right, I got you. Isn't it? I just want to say. Well, actually, I have two things I want to say, but I'll just say one thing first. Isn't it just crazy? Here we are, 2023, but what was it in 20? I'm getting it right. Brady was gone 2019. No, I think 2019 or 2020.
Yeah, 2020 he was gone.
2020, and here 17. You are, 3-4 years later. Your team's still trash, and we still can't get this together. I mean.
Well,
I remember when
the way I remember it is it's always Cam Newton was here 1 year, and then they drafted Mac, and this is his third year. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
It's just how long does the rebuild take?
It just depends.
It could be infinity.
There is no like one. There is no set way.
I think I threw him off with that one. But I mean, look, like there's no guarantee that any team is going to compete for a Super Bowl. It's
right.
Like
that's the problem. That was the fear. Like you get stuck in NFL purgatory.
That's why I lose my mind when I hear people say like, well, it's probably like a 5 to 6 year rebuild. I'm like, what, 5? Why not 50 years? Like, why 5 to 6? Like you're gonna have a whole draft class that's not going to pan out, and then they're going to walk like
blown up this offseason. Like everyone seems to be wanting it to.
Define what rebuild is. What foundation are you building on? Where are you coming from? Like
Yeah.
There's no set model.
I just think the bottom line is find a quarterback you believe in and you love. And I don't think anybody anymore believes in Mac and they don't have it. I mean, say what you will about Bailey Zappe's performances, but right now, to me, they don't have that piece. And that's the piece that you need to really believe you are rebuilding, because until that point, I think you're just building. You're just building with no real end in sight until you get the quarterback in place and you get some star players in place. And then you can really start to say, we're going towards something. We believe we're going to be contenders.
Yeah, I just feel like if you, again, like to use the Panthers analogy, if you really feel like Caleb Williams is an Andrew Luck, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence level prospect, then I guess maybe you could convince me into trading up to get him, depending on the price. But I just think more times than not, it's a Bryce Young situation, and then you're left with a quarterback that is on a depleted roster that doesn't have draft ammo now to add to that roster. And where are you? You're spinning the tires on it, and they're due picks, to Chicago for like multiple years, like not just first round picks too. I think they traded one of their seconds as well. So it's just a tough spot to be in. If you're the Patriots, I'd rather build it methodically than just try to like drop Drake May or Caleb Williams into this mess and think he's going to fix everything.
Right. Chris in New Hampshire says, I've got a gut feeling that nothing changes here. Maybe Kraft is as stuck in his ways as we believe Belichick is. So
I don't rule it out. I don't. I mean, I think at the end of the day, they could easily just say, look, we're going to buy into what he said, and we've got a lot of opportunity to change the team this year, and we're not ready to hand the keys to this car with all the upcoming completely unknown quantity. You know, and Bill has had his misses, and but for us, how much longer is Robert going to be actively involved in the team? I just think he might say, look, I'd rather just deal with Bill, and what is it, like the devil is better than the one you don't.
Yeah.
So I really could see it coming. I know we're all, probably not really in favor of that, but I could see it coming.
Eric in Amherstburg, I've been a huge in Bill we trust guy, but it's time, and I'll be cutthroat about it because it happens. It's business. We need to celebrate him, but while he's hurting us and there's a chance he might be back, it's infuriating. I understand we don't want to lose, but winning these last games kills us. I wanted as high a pick as we could get for the options. Do we hold it for a king's ransom? Do we take a quarterback, Marvin Jr.? It was a lot more fun then. Now we get a tackle. Awesome. Another middling season coming.
I would also, again, like we said yesterday, like, you don't just guaranteed get the tackle. Like, there's a million different things that could happen between now and the draft. And I understand that everybody's locked in that Caleb Williams and Drake May are going with the first two picks in the draft, but that's not necessarily going to be the case. Like, right. you don't know.
Joel's going to high jump like 40 inches, and then people are like, he's the second overall.
Yeah, right. Those two tackles are top 5 type prospects. Marvin Harrison Jr. is obviously, there's a chance that Marvin Harrison Jr. could go 1-1. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if Chicago doesn't get a trade package that it loves and it doesn't want to draft a quarterback. Like, who knows?
What do the Bears do? You know what I mean? What do the Bears do? Like, your first overall, like that. I mean, I think that so much of what you said hinges on their decision on Justin Fields. Like, I mean, it could, I mean, that pick could easily be up for sale. Like for a team like the Patriots, if they wanted to go to number 1 overall. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see another team do it.
Max from Santa Barbara.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. I've been wondering since Josh left why they didn't bring back Charlie Weiss. He groomed Brady pretty well and always seemed to be an excellent play caller. Nothing against Billy O, but if they brought Charlie back last year, maybe, just maybe, and I know this is just a possible scenario, Mac Jones might not have broken down so badly. Now the show has always been great. I've been listening since 2003. But since we really sucked this year, it has been better than ever for some strange reason. The question is, do you have past shows from the glory decades in the archives somewhere that we can access? I think they're out there somewhere.
Yeah,
but,
should be somewhere.
Yeah, but Charlie Weiss, I think his coaching days are done. I
think he was done with interviewing with us, too, at the Combine.
His son's interesting, not necessarily connecting to the Patriots at all, but he's going to be, I think he's already an offensive coordinator in college. So, he's a rising name.
Jared in Vermont, starting to feel the winds change around Foxborough. Let me pose this vague scenario, and would it be a disaster? Keep Belichick, trade down from the top 5 pick, and start Zappe in 2024.
Gross.
It could happen, though.
To start the year, Sure. I don't think that if you're bringing back Zappe as like the consensus, unquestioned supplanted starter, then like forget about it.
Oh no, it's just
but if you have like Zappe with like Penix or Zappe with Bo Nix or something like that, then that's like a different conversation.
But he's saying trade down, so
pick up.
It would have to be a guy like Bo Nix.
Yeah, right. Somebody at the top of the second round or something like that.
Ricky in Connecticut, by way of Puerto Rico, definitely need to get Alex Barth in your team and give more mic time to the ladies. The ladies can have as much mic time as they want.
They're here. Alex has been coming Wednesdays. She's joining.
Yeah.
She's also kicking everybody's butt.
Just wanted to talk about Bill. He's got to stay, says Ricky. The draft and team building process has always appeared collaborative, and the brain drain is apparent. Bill just needs to build out his staff. Robert Kraft should appoint Mayo, director of player personnel, and bring Devin in or another player into the scouting department.
Oh, boy.
The team can still win as a game plan team with good execution. Bill needs to not continue adding responsibilities to his plate, especially in the fourth quarter of his career. Predicting 5 more seasons of Bill.
5 more seasons?
I don't even know if Bill wants to coach for 5 more seasons.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 or 3 maybe. But
that's just another big 75, 76.
He's 71 now. He'll be 72 on April 16th.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
It's my birthday, too, Evan. Bill and I share a birthday.
You guys share a birthday? How did I not know that?
Yeah. What zodiac sign is that?
Aries.
Oh, cool.
He's more of an Aries than me.
I wouldn't take him as an...
Him? Really?
I wouldn't take him as an
I don't
Aries.
know. I mean, I'm not... I mean,
Gemini.
somewhere in the building,
no
Tamara's ears are perking up about, horoscope talk, and she's going to come flying in there. I never really felt like an Aries, but I do that, and I do the hoodie database. That's what my special relationship.
L from Wisconsin. So as Bill comes back, he says, do you think we should go back to Mac Jones, bring back N'Keal Harry? As long as we're doing things that don't work, we might as well.
Well, Mac Jones and N'Keal Harry never worked. At least Bill worked at one point long ago. But now I mean, going back to yesterday's conversation, I wonder if they do have to jettison Mac, like if just to get him out of the,
I think
get him out of the mix
for his own sake too. Like I'm not just saying that like kick him out the door, but like
what do you think you could get for him if you tried to trade him? I mean, like 6th, 5th, something like that. Not even. Yeah.
Chad in Atlanta, Deuce sounds like he's in denial. It's got to happen sometime, Mike. Bill doesn't have the time to completely rebuild this team and make it competitive. Come to the dark side and rip the Band-Aid off already. The longer Bill is here, the older his philosophy gets. Do you really think he's going to leave this team better than he found it? Blow it up. Don't be scared.
No, I mean, I'm not like firmly in like he can't go, but I mean, I'll say that there's a part of me that's intrigued, despite all of the mistakes that he's made recently, of what he would do this offseason with this team, like, with the money in the draft. And I mean, I'm
16 defensive players.
I mean, but like we all make those jokes and like that, but still, like, I mean, he has hit on some draft picks, so I don't know. I mean, what would the philosophy be? What would he do? What would his actions tell you? As you say, what does he do?
Mike Reese had a
what does he do? How does he write it?
Mike Reese had a spitball scenario where Bill stays. They bring back Josh with Bill O'Brien. Bill completely hands the offense to them, like it's yours. So it's instead of Patricia and Judge, it's Josh McDaniels and Bill O'Brien.
And now, do they have a heavy hand in drafting offensive players?
Yeah, they're like, these are the guys we want.
They're the head coaches of the offense.
Yeah.
But the problem with that, I find, is like, so would Josh be the quarterback's coach in that scenario?
Yeah, pretty much. I would think.
Right. Yeah. And it just like, there's a lot of cooks in that kitchen.
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
That's the problem with that. Like, I've thought of that too, of like, how can you pigeonhole Josh back into this whole thing? But like, it's just a lot of cooks. And like, their offenses are very, very similar, like probably 95% similar. But that little 5% is like some stylistic differences that are pretty major. Like, Bill O'Brien doesn't like a fullback. Josh McDaniels does. Like, is that who, how are they going to be two back? Or are they going to be gun? Like, where are they going to go with that?
Right.
Like that, those are big differences.
I mean, how would you feel, Evan, though, if Billy O, let's just say, left for college? Season ends, Billy O takes a head coaching job in college, and they bring in somebody that gives you, I don't have a name, but like gives you that you're like, this guy's interesting. Like it's off the beaten path. It's not, and we have an introduction party, and it's like a big deal that, and we're not worried about, it's another new offense for Mac. It's going to be a new quarterback. So, we can get away from worrying about all the new coordinators. But, you know what I mean? Like, what about something like that where it's, all right, this offense is now really going to change a lot.
So somebody who's interesting. So like in San Francisco, every night, like this whiteboard, they come in the morning and somebody has written these really cool plays on it. It's like Goodwill Hunting, when they discover this kid,
right?
Who was
that would be like Evan's dream, like Evan, like after hours in here, he's like sneaking in, and he just like draws something up on the board, and then he leaves, and they're like, RPOs,
who's been doing this? And,
Oh, you can throw down the field off an RPO? I didn't know that. No, I think the issue that that's a good idea in theory, but then that guy's just going to become a head coach someplace else in like 2 years. So that's I think. As much as Bill O'Brien hasn't fixed everything, I think part of the reason why he was appealing was because it's going to take a while for him to build up his resume again to be a head coach again somewhere.
But if he's good enough to be a head coach, doesn't that mean he's like they're good? Like it's working?
Right.
Like
but if he's not going to be your head coach, then you're just recycling offensive coordinator again.
But then maybe he has a quarterback coach that you promote, and then and then you got a cycle going on the offensive side. So I mean, but you're saying like you don't want to hire another offensive coordinator unless he promises to be here forever and ever, and no givesy backsies. Like, I mean, it's just as hard. Like,
That's why I want an offensive head coach, so that there is no
givesy. So you can cycle through the coordinators, but the offense stays
the
same.
Like I just think that, if Ben Johnson's your head coach, then that's your offensive play caller and your offensive coordinator, hopefully for the next 10 years, right? Like that's what you're hoping for. And defensively, whether it's Gerard or somebody else, I'm more okay with figuring that side of the ball out every couple of years than having to completely recycle offense. I mean, I even think you look around the league, Jalen Hurts is having a lot of problems without Shane Steichen. Josh Allen's having a lot of problems without Brian Dable. Those guys leave.
Mahomes.
And you're just Mahomes with Bieniemy, another good one. Now those guys are gone, and
I thought Andy Reid though was that offensive head coach.
I think Andy Reid is what I wish that Bill would be, which is Andy Reid he has Steve Spagnuolo, who's basically a head coach running his defense, and then he had Bieniemy running the offense, and all Andy Reid had to do was do cool stuff. He'd just come in, he'd watch the film, he'd game plan
commercials,
he'd game plan, he'd draw up ridiculous plays and stuff like that, and be like, oh, why don't we just run this one day? And that was just his job, was just to just kind of come in and just do. Have fun with it and just draw up stuff and cook stuff up in the kitchen, and he didn't have to worry about all the little nitty-gritty details. And then he had Brett Veach running personnel that was Andy Reid, and now he's had to go back to his roots of coordinating an offense, and it hasn't necessarily gone very well.
Kyle and Pembroke, this weekend I was one of those doomsday people when it came to the draft. However, I looked inside myself and found my inner Patriots fan. Beating Buffalo, ruining their playoff push, and keeping the dominant streak going against the Jets would taste so sweet and would be a great end to this miserable, no-good, rotten season. So from here on out, I'm no longer rooting for the tank.
There you go. Well, that's a little bit of my feeling of just, remembering how frustrating the 2013 and 2015 AFC Championships games were, the Harper's Muff. I mean, you kind of killed the Denver Broncos season last week. I kind of take some enjoyment of that. And, you watch football to enjoy watching football. You don't watch football to enjoy, hopefully, the draft pick. Hopefully, because God knows that even if you tank for the draft pick, they might not take the guy you want anyway. So I can take some enjoyment from watching football.
Matthew in New Mexico says, everyone crying about winning against the Broncos and hurting our draft position should really stop watching the Patriots. You aren't a real fan.
I agree.
Wow.
Well.
Speaking of real fans, Eldred in North Carolina. What's up, Eldred?
Hey, fellas. Hey, lady. How y'all doing?
All right.
Hey.
Hi,
Dude,
Eldred.
you got to be kidding me, right?
About what?
I mean, you really got to be kidding me.
Why? What? About what? What'd I do?
3 more years to keep Bill and the way this roster looks for the last 6 years.
When did I say that?
Everlasting mind, dude.
When did I say that? I don't even know. I'm just making the case.
You talking about keep Bill, see what he gonna do this year after, I mean,
I
like Evan.
Oh, yeah. No, that interests me.
Time to move on.
No, all right. I mean, me too, but
on.
you would have no interest at all in seeing what Bill would do with all the resources they have this
because
offseason?
I've seen enough what Bill done. I've seen enough.
Yeah.
I mean, done. Yeah, he's the greatest coach of all time. But you keep leaving
out
the other part. He's the greatest coach of all time. We had the greatest player of all time.
See, it's
constant left. One constant left.
Yeah.
And what you got now? Out of his own words, I could take any 15 quarterback and win in my system. All right, you got 2. You ain't won now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the constant. That's the constant, bro.
Yeah.
No,
well,
the roster
but let me ask you.
And everything.
Let me ask you a question, Eldred.
Well, I'm sorry.
I mean, how much like, and this is the real question because we talked about it earlier. Like, do you think Tom Brady was like way, 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 way better than Peyton Manning and Patrick Mahomes? Like, do you think that he is like? Because I do think.
And it's cerebral-wise.
So you think that like Tom Brady?
He might not have been athletic. He might not have been athletic, but as far as picking people apart, yes. Knowing where to put the ball, yes. Even with Tonka toys, instead of the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis that everybody else had.
So you think the Patriots would have been better without Bill Belichick over the last 20 years?
Maybe coaching-wise, yeah.
Coaching-wise, yeah.
NFL facts. You ain't got to believe it. Look it up. Every time a Hall of Fame quarterback leaves the NFL team, that same coach is there. It takes them 5 to 10, maybe longer, to get back dominant.
Not every time.
Yes, sir.
What, 49ers, Montana left? They had
49ers, yeah. The 49ers, too.
What about
when Joe left,
they won a Super Bowl.
Steve Young.
Yeah.
Steve Young had the same team. It took him 4 years with the same team. The 4 years after Joe Montana left.
I thought they won sooner than
Super Bowl.
that. What about
No, they won
92.
No, they won after that.
Yeah.
After that.
Well,
the Cowboys,
you're talking about winning a Super Bowl, but they were winning.
But
they
like
were
I
in the
said,
playoffs and contending every year. Like winning a Super Bowl is really hard.
Are we contending every year? Are we in the playoffs?
No, we're not. But I'm just saying it's not.
All right then.
It doesn't have to.
Every time that quarterback leaves, it ain't the coach.
Yeah.
It's the quarterback. Look it up.
I understand that, Eldred, but what makes the Patriots unique was that they sustained success for 20 years. They went 20 years. So that was why my question was, is that, and you responded the right way. Like, you just think that Tom Brady is head and shoulder, because Peyton Manning he wasn't great for 20 years. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, it's looking a little dicey right now. So, my just contention is that, and I'm not giving Bill all the credit, but I'm saying Bill deserves credit for maintaining the team for 20 years. It wasn't just Tom Brady being 2,000 times better.
But like I said, Bill wasn't on the field.
Oh, yeah. No, of course. Like, nobody's arguing that, like, the coach and the quarterback are equal. No one's arguing that.
So what you call?
Yeah.
Okay, and the defense. I got to give this. Defense, too. He put the players in position with the defense.
Yeah.
Coaching-wise, yes. But like I said, you can't coach if you ain't got the players.
No, it's true.
It's true. Players like we ain't had the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You're just a coach holding the clipboard.
It's
like
true.
You've been doing for the last 4.
But you could also make the case, if it wasn't for Tom Brady, Peyton Manning might have had the same run of dominance because they were winning every year, and it was the Patriots stopping them. Getting in the way. And it wasn't always Tom Brady beating Peyton Manning. It was the Patriots defense beating Peyton Manning.
Pittsburgh, or the
Ty
other.
Law.
Well, I mean, just
3
times.
But back then, at least our offense, you could count them getting out the bed doing 30 points.
Oh yeah, well, not all the
now.
time. I mean,
Can't count that now.
you won a lot of games in the
Majority
20s
time.
against the Colts too.
Yeah.
But I think it's been proven that Tom Brady was the key. He was the key.
And I don't think that Bill would disagree with that. Like
right.
I think he's pretty much always agree with that. And I understand that people think that maybe deep down he feels differently, and that's just his publicly what he's saying. But I just think that this revisionist history now, because the last couple of years, that now we're going to say that Bill wasn't actually a good coach, for 20 years here, and he, it was all Brady. Like, that's just the pushback that I always have with it. Yeah. Of course, it was mostly Brady. Of course, Brady is the GOAT. Like, no one's arguing that point. Like, the point is that now we're just looking back and we're saying, oh, actually, Bill had nothing to do with it. He wasn't a good coach or whatever. Like, come on.
Yeah, well, then that's, do you think that San Francisco is engaged in debates about, was it Walsh or Montana? Like, Bill Walsh has his special place in NFL history, the offense he created, and, the job that he did, and Joe Montana has his place too. But
why do you think that is, though? That's interesting. Like, why isn't there a debate in San Francisco about who was more responsible?
Social media didn't exist in the 80s.
You think it's social media, or do you think it was the personalities of those two people?
Maybe that's very possible too. That, I mean, Walsh, I know, is kind of had that grandfatherly kind of figure, but the same thing with Troy Aikman, Jimmy Johnson, like, or Mahomes right now, like, what is this going to look like if Kansas City kind of evens out and they're not really that dominant anymore? I mean, they're certainly always going to be good. I think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback still in the league right now, but I think you're just getting a little bit of a glimpse of that. everyone just seemed like, oh, well, now the Chiefs are going to have 20 years of success with Patrick Mahomes, and maybe they will. Maybe they'll turn it around and they'll find some star players. To Eldred's point, but it's just I think you're seeing right now how hard it is to sustain success for that long, and I give Bill a chunk of that credit.
Yeah, and that's why I think the logical answer is like, neither one probably has the success without each other. It had to be like
said
a perfect storm, and everyone it just.
And like Evan said, like so much of this argument, like
I can't stand this
it relies completely on. But what does Bill really think? Because deep down, it's all him and his mind. And which I've never heard him say. And I know that you can give me all these examples of why people think that's how he is, and maybe he is, but. All I've ever heard that man say is passing all credit goes to the players and saying those things. Now, people say, oh, well, that's just lip service, and that's not what he really thinks. Fine, if you want to believe that, that's great. But I've never heard him do anything but give all the credit to the players.
The thing that people don't give him enough credit for is just keeping it together, during that whole time. Like we talked earlier about the whole Alex Guerrero situation with the Patriots. Another coach or GM might have not been able to handle that, and it could have ripped the team totally apart where it's unsalvageable. But Bill, even though it was rough going, he navigated through that in, 14, 16, 8, they won again.
Yeah.
After all of that. But like I said, a weaker head coach / GM may not have been able to do that, may not have been able to keep it together, and it could have just destroyed the team.
I mean, I think about the we're on to Cincinnati point, and like that point of the 14 season when, for me, before this, that was like the inflection point of like, is it over? That was one of the real, and that was a team then that went to the next 4 of 5 Super Bowls and won 3 of them. So, it's a lesser coach might have lost the team at that point, but but look, let's just bring it back to what it was really about. Yeah, Gronk. You had Dante Hightower. You had star players that made big plays in the biggest moments. And he drafted those players, developed those players. Those players get the credit for those wins, but still, that's what they were working with.
And I think Brady has said this in the past, too. Like, Bill deserves so much credit for Brady, period. Like, just like he's a 6th-round pick, and he puts him in 2001. Then he sticks with him after 2001. And it wasn't, Bill said it himself, it wasn't really until like 2003 that Brady takes off.
Week 6.
And is, Brady at that point. And I just don't, a lot of other organizations, he probably never even gets a chance to play. But Bill saw it in practice and saw the work ethic and saw the ability and all that kind of stuff. And he took a chance on him, and it was probably the best lottery ticket that anybody's ever cashed.
Well, and as Brady said, you have a coach with, say what you will, but an unparalleled knowledge of NFL history and all that pouring into him for those first 2 seasons, or even the season when he sat. Like, that's all part of it. But nobody's sitting here trying to say that the dynasty is a 50-50 split.
Right.
But
but for all we know, like that scenario with Bledsoe and Brady could be one of the receipts that Bill is keeping. It's like, yeah. You wanted to sign Bledsoe to a $100 million contract. Remember I said you shouldn't do it?
Yeah.
Did
he not? They didn't think that's yeah.
Well, legend has it that Bill wasn't on board with that.
Yeah.
And that was an ownership thing. We're giving him
a
contract.
Stadium,
why,
right?
Like if we do run him out of town, like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. In a way, I think Mike made a good point earlier with all the logistics of this offseason, the cap space, the draft pick. Do you really want to just bring in a new guy, let him handle all of that, and then what if it's not the right guy? And then are you looking in hindsight like,
it's possible.
Crap, at least we knew what we had going into managing all that. So it's like, if it doesn't work out,
he's
it's
back, Eldred. We're bringing him back.
But now they could be thinking that, and they could also be saying, but bringing in Mayo keeps some of that continuity in that structure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think a good question is, what do you want to keep? Like, what, I'm just saying philosophically, what, I think, like, we could probably all agree, like, the defense is well constructed. They would be, I would have loved to have seen them this year with Judon and Gonzalez. And, you know, I know that's unrealistic. Every year there are injuries. But, look, there have been players
I think they're
emerging.
well constructed, but I also think they were also well coached.
And players are blossoming, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was one of my biggest arguments going into this season was that just guys aren't blossoming. Barmore kind of had a slow start. I remember early in the season being like, crap, we thought we had a star in the making. And, now you're seeing guys like Peppers and Tavai and, guys that they've kind of picked up like they usually did off the scrap heap of other teams or, targeted trades that all this doesn't make sense at the time. But, you are actually seeing some players now, admittedly, on the defensive side of the ball blossoming. And that, to me, is how you get out of it. Again, like if you can't draft them, you got to develop them. So they've had some solid development this year, but it's restricted mostly to the defensive side of the ball.
It's all about offense and offensive philosophy. In personnel on that side of the ball, I don't feel like he's in tune with building a modern offense with a modern quarterback with skill players. Like now, the fact that they drafted a quarterback in the first round and they had him on the rookie contract and never took a big swing at a wide receiver for 3 years is crazy. Totally. Like, that's absolutely crazy. I mean, just look at every other team and the way that they've built around the quarterback. Like, Miami has 2 of them. The Philly has 2 of them. Like, they used a first-round pick on Smith, and they traded a first-round pick for A.J. Brown and then paid A.J. Brown.
And profit,
and all these different types of things. Like, all these teams, Allen with Diggs and go on down the board, and the fact that they never felt the need to make that move is crazy.
Totally agree.
And Kansas City may be ruining the fact that they haven't done that.
Now they're same thing that the Patriots tried to do. We find some distressed assets that have some talent.
Right.
But I mean, it's funny because it's like you look at 2007 and like the team building of that offseason, and I remember they signed Dante Stallworth and being like, oh, nice. No, it's like Welker and Moss. And I mean, they over invested in offense. And so, he's done it before. Is it crazy to think that maybe that would be the focus this offseason?
Even then, when they, those were even kind of discounted players, though, right?
They didn't know what they had.
Good point.
I mean, they thought Welker was good, but he hadn't really proven it yet. And Moss came here with the dog label from the Raiders, and, he rejuvenated his career here.
It really only lasted with Moss 2 years.
No, you're great.
But they were good 2 years.
It's a great point. I would just say at least they recognized that we have to overstock the offense. Like we got out of 2006 and we just didn't have the horses to compete with Manning and the Colts basically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, why can't we just do that again?
The Bill O'Brien move had to be step number 1, right? Like, we all felt that way at the time. They had to bring in a experienced, real offensive coordinator, but that's kind of all they did. Like, the rest of it was lateral moves at best. Like,
but Deuce, you just said, why can't they just do that again? Meaning what they did in 2007. But the point is, they didn't go after the top free agent.
No,
they
I
didn't
understand.
spend a lot of money.
No, I understand. But I would just say, but the overlying philosophy, though, was that, and regardless of what they did or didn't spend, they knew they needed to go that direction.
Well, they would argue.
They did it their way.
They would argue we spent more money in free agency than anyone else had. It was mostly offensive players. Mm-hmm. Then the next year we brought in Parker, and then we brought in Juju Schuster. Like we've been bringing in guys, but to your, it's not like, but the top level. They didn't do what Miami did and just plucked.
I totally get what you're saying, but I think that there was, some smarts to it, and like Welker, like that move. You know what I mean? It's not. I mean, you're right. You're not like going out and let's move a first-round pick for this guy because we need him. And they're going to do things the way that they want to do them. But I think it does. It just illustrate that they at least at that point had an understanding of like, we have to over-invest in the offense this year. It can't just be a Juju Smith-Schuster. It can't just be Devontae Parker, the crown. It's like you get one Dante Stallworth per offseason. Like that would kind of be what it would be. Like he's a, fine. Fine. But if you don't have Gronk and Edelman making the stirring the straw in the drink, like it's not going to work.
But again, Edelman was what, a 6th-round pick.
7th.
They didn't know what they had in him.
No.
They didn't go after the top wide receiver in the draft to get Edelman. Gronk was a 2nd-round pick,
and when they did,
he was undervalued because of his back. Now that one, I think that was good scouting and just a perfect pick. But Edelman, he blossomed as a player.
I just think that
and he was able to learn because you had Welker on the team already.
Yeah, and the market's changed, right? Like nowadays, these receivers are going earlier and earlier in the draft, and they're getting paid more than they were 10, 15 years ago. So you could get guys at that point in time for a lot less or later in the draft or something like that. Now, guys like, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to go like 2nd overall, and then Rome Odunze from Washington is probably going to go in the top 20 and so on and so forth. It just that these receivers are just flying off boards in drafts now. And there's always going to be that Puka Nacua like somewhere that falls through the cracks, but like good luck trying to hit that needle in the haystack.
Pre is in Indy. What's up, Pre?
Hey, I was just calling in to say my point on Bill Belichick. I think it's kind of ridiculous that, like, the disrespect he's getting. And I get it. Like, I wanted them to take Pickens. I wanted them to take Alec Pierce. It's frustrating. I wanted them to keep Brady. But I feel like football is like chess on grass. We have the best chess master. So I feel like we'll never get anyone better. And that's my question to everyone that wants him gone, is who will be better than Bill Belichick?
Pre, who would be better than 4-11? You don't think any other coach in the league can have a better record than that?
No, that's a fair point. But, like, think about all the games they were in at the start of the year. If you had Bailey Zappe, your competent quarterback play, like Cam Newton, honestly, like, just someone that's not going to just turn the ball over and is so afraid of the rush. The Colts game.
So now Cam Newton was the solution.
Great, but they would not be embarrassed. They would be in the playoffs.
But Pre, and I agree. Like, if Mac was a better player, they would have maybe won some of those games. However, it's part of how Bill, built this team leading up to now, and how he mismanaged Mac last year. So Bill has some of the blame as to why they're 4-11. It's not just the quarterback. It's the development of the quarterback and, who is around the quarterback. So coaching-wise, like if we're just talking about coaching, other coaches may not have even been able to win 4 games. Maybe Bill's coaching got them 4 games, but his building of the team also kept them from winning more than 4 games. So it's complicated. You can't just look at it as one thing, just coaching. He's in charge of the whole team, and right now, the way the team was constructed kept them from winning games this season.
Yeah, I mean,
that's definitely a fair point, and I would agree with that. Like, it's frustrating for me to be like Pickens, and then it's like Pierce that's not Pickens, and then they take this Thornton guy. I'm like, I don't even know who he is, and then I'm like, okay, maybe they know something. And then he's not very good, so I get it too. And he's the guy who's in charge of that.
Yeah, and I think a lot. And thanks for the call, Pre. I think a lot of people's frustration who are offensive minded are Bill isn't. Bill doesn't respect the offense the way he respects the defense, and I know that's crazy to hear. And Bill would bristle at the thought of that, but it's just apparent in the way, he stocks them. Like I go back to Joe Tooney. Like they valued him enough to put a franchise tag on him, but they didn't value him enough to, before that, giving him an early deal and extending him and paying him money. Like he was a foundational piece of your offensive line. He could play like 4 positions. He was a solid guy, and then they did the same thing with Shaq Mason. They got rid of him. It's like.
And the line hasn't recovered since.
Yeah, it really hasn't. It's been the beginning of the end, and that's Dante leaving also.
Go back to something that Deuce said about City. So Mike on what that's my biggest fear with that is like we're just doing the same thing again, like where you're moving on from a proven NFL quality starter to because it's cheaper.
If Bill paid as much attention to offensive line as he did defensive line, we'd have no problems. He loves his defensive linemen. He'll extend guys there, and recognize even, middling players, but they're good for his system. So, guys like Dietrich Wise and Godshaw will always have a job here because they play their position well. But he doesn't think the same way, apparently, about the offense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they're constantly chasing their tail on offense, where Jacoby Myers leaves, so now we have to sign Juju Smith-Schuster, or Jonnu Smith signing doesn't work out, so now we're signing Mike Gesicki, and we traded Shaq Mason, so now we didn't re-sign Joe Thuney, so now we have to draft a guard in the first round, and now we're going to do it again with Onwenu, and we're going to hope that a fourth-round pick is going to give him the same production as Onwenu, and like then they're constantly just replacing and trying to plug holes in the boat, and it's like instead of building something, it's just trying not to take on water on that side of the ball.
I go back to Jacoby a lot too, because I just think like an undrafted guy that you develop that is so reliable, what would have it said to the locker room to keep a guy like that here and reward him? And he embodies really everything we wanted here in this culture. And again, an undrafted guy, he's going to have that loyalty to you. And
imagine him in place of Juju.
Yeah.
And just
what
with
does
Pop
the season look like?
And with what Bourne did, before he got hurt, and Parker with what he brings, which I know is some people he's a hot button topic, but I just. Even with Mac, what would have been like if you brought back?
The goal should have been to build with Jacoby instead of making a lateral move, which turned out to be even a step backwards with Juju. But in the moment, like I have to be fair. Like I thought at worst it was going to be a lateral move.
Me too.
From Juju to Jacoby. But they really should have been looking to add to Jacoby, and Jacoby is not like the Raiders paid Jacoby $25 million a year. So like you could have had Jacoby pretty easily with another offensive piece around him. Like this team, I think we had a caller like a while ago that said, well, what if this team was Jacoby Myers and DeAndre Hopkins? Like how much better would the offense have been?
Yeah.
And maybe they wouldn't have. They're not going to win a Super Bowl with that team or anything like that. But I think they certainly they would not have been dead last in scoring. I don't think with those two receivers on the team.
No, and Jacoby's proven it too with his performance this year with the Raiders. He's the same player there that he was here.
Franklin in Baltimore writes in, the BB versus Tom debate is entirely derived from where the latter was picked and your perception of that. If you're someone who believes Tom was made great, you believe Bill deserves the majority of the credit. If you believe Tom was disserviced by his idiot coach in Michigan and thus was improperly evaluated coming into the league, you believe Brady deserves most of the credit. I personally believe it's a mix of both, but I do lean more on the latter argument because, come on. If you just watch Brady's Michigan film, he should have never been a sixth-round pick. Just goes to show you even professionals can miss on obvious talent.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was, like 6 when Tom Brady was at Michigan.
You missed
I missed on that one, Deuce.
Man. I nobody. I just have not heard anyone try to say that Bill deserves more credit than Tom does, and I feel like we're constantly arguing against that.
Yeah. I mean, the story about him back at Michigan is a fair point, though. Was it Chad Henne or someone like that? No, it wasn't Chad Henne.
No,
it was
way
before
the
Chad
son
Henne.
of.
I just
Greasy.
said
Greasy.
I just said Chad Henne because it's like all of them.
And then
like they're all Michigan quarterbacks.
It was the pitcher too, who was like a super athlete and then played for the Yankees. Drew Henson.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah,
same guy. They might as well be the same person.
Right.
AJ in the Bay Area, but from Providence. I hear what many of you are saying about the state of the roster and not being a quarterback away from contention. But the matter is simple. You get a franchise quarterback in the top 5. You can get the tackle, the wide receiver, the pass rusher, the corner, in other parts of the first round. The chances of hitting on a quarterback when picking this high are significantly higher than when picking them later in the draft. We have other draft picks. The top pick in this draft goes on a quarterback. You can get the other positions through free agency as well. You swing big to get the franchise-altering quarterback of the future.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I'm just not drafting the quarterback just to draft the quarterback.
Right.
Like, it's got to be the right quarterback. Like, if you are really convinced about the quarterbacks in this draft and you really have a great feeling about Drake May that he's going to be the guy, then there's no argument. Of course, you take the quarterback, but if you're not sold on it, then I'm not taking Zach Wilson. Like I'm just not doing that. Like I just don't see how that's helpful for the team at all. Just because he has quarterback next to his name to take a guy that I just, even looking back on it, I still can't believe that the Jets took Zach Wilson where they took him, and it's just that's the mistake that a lot of teams make in this position is they get desperate and they just take the quarterback just to do it.
All right. Let's see.
And they're a team that still has some talent. Like they still have some talent around them that, they're lucky that they didn't miss on Quinnen Williams and, what's his face, the receiver. And, Garrett Wilson. Like they've made some good picks. But, even the tackle, Becton didn't really work out for them too. So it's just like even no matter how many times you get in the top 10, And even if you hit on a couple, like, there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
Jeremy, who tried to call earlier from Saskatchewan, but somehow Canada, they have a time limit on how long you're on hold. Right. Cut you right off. But the reason he called was he was wondering about Brian Flores as a head coach.
That's an interesting one, and I mean, I think he's getting a lot of praise right now for what he's been doing in Minnesota. And
well deserved.
Just how he's just a spin the dial guy, and I think that's what's fun with his defense. I mean, I'd be all for just in general his coaching style. I know he was really respected at least by like our peers that were had crossed paths with him while he was here. I don't know what the relationships are like elsewhere. I don't know if you're ready to give him another head coaching chance here.
Yeah,
but
the MO
I
down
think
in
he's
Miami
great.
wasn't exactly positive about him as a people person.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that you always hear about Belichick guys. Patricia, Judge, McDaniels. They just don't handle the CEO elements of being a head coach very well. People in the building and relationships and things like that. He's an awesome defensive coach, and he was here too. Great X's and O's coach. But
are we blitzing 9 or are we blitzing 2? 9-2. 9-2.
Yeah, I know. I read an article on ESPN about the wrinkles that they've been running in cover 0 in Minnesota, which this person credited to Brian Flores, which Brian Flores learned from Bill Belichick 5 years ago, but that's besides the point. They do a lot of zone coverage behind cover 0 instead of man, and it's just driving all the hot routes and stuff like that are now covered because you're running slants and crossers thinking that you're in man, and then all of a sudden it gets zoned off, and the Patriots do that all the time.
Were you as an X's and O guy
sometimes
were you as just kind of impressed when they switched from Patricia to Flores, the difference in the aggressiveness in the defense? Did that make an impression on you?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm always this week against Buffalo, I think is a perfect example. I would much rather just fight fire with fire, just they did in Week 7. They just go after him. What's the point of trying to sit back in 8-man coverage and just pray that he throws an interception at some point? That's just wishful thinking. And I think with the Patricia defense, that was a lot of it. Was all right, we're going to make you grind out drives. We're going to make you go 12 plays, and eventually you're going to make a mistake. Not we're going to force a mistake, but just we're going to get you stopped in the red zone, or we're going to get a turnover. You're going to get a penalty that's going to put you behind the sticks, and then you're not going to get another first down, things like that. And that's how I always felt the Patriots that played Josh Allen for a while, was just sit back and pray. You don't hurt
Thinking
us.
He'll make a mistake.
Thinking
he'll give you the game.
And he's too good for that now. And last time around, they blitzed him over 40% of the time, and they really came after him. And he made some plays, but so did you. And it was that's why he kind of won the game.
I mean, back in the day, you could just rush 4 all game or even 3, but you could also rough up the receivers. You could there's more contact allowed. So you could beat the Colts that way. But now you can't get away with that. You're going to get defensive holding, or whatever, illegal contact. And so you have to take chances. You have to play that complementary defense where the pressure matches up with the coverage. You can't just let them march, because they're going to in today's NFL. And you're gonna just wear out your defense.
Yeah, I think today more than ever, and I think this is a big reason why there has been a little bit of a defensive resurgence in the NFL. The pressure schemes are getting more and more creative.
It's true.
And the pass rushes are getting better, and pass rushers are getting better. There's just better defensive linemen in the NFL now than offensive linemen in a lot of places.
It's just more speed.
Yeah, and they're doing a much better job of disguising rushes and getting unblocked guys and getting guys to the quarterback. And you see every single quarterback, no matter who it is, if there's pressure in his face, he's not going to be anywhere near as good. That's just obvious, and that's, I think, a big reason why scoring has been down.
Yeah, Brandon in Maine on Mayo, we were talking about him earlier. A couple of weeks ago, I believe Albert Breer had a report about Gerard Mayo, and that there are some in the building who are no longer see him as the heir apparent. I also believe there was a second report around the same time, though I can't remember from who, saying that Mayo had rubbed people the wrong way since its extension, in noting an arrogance that was off-putting. Can you speak to these reports and what you may be hearing about Mayo? Yeah, I heard the report, but I only see what everyone else sees, pregame and all that, and he's out there with everyone else and sitting next to Steve like he always has, and I don't notice anything different, but I heard that report. You know,
no, seems like
who was that? Was that
Bedard originally?
Bedard,
and then Breer kind of confirmed it, and now there's another Andrew Callahan also just tweeted today that he's also hearing that Bill has been talking about his job status with this.
Yeah, we mentioned that. Yeah, uncertainty of the future.
Yeah, that was I think Giardi had it, and now Callahan confirmed what Giardi was saying.
So I don't. Again, we don't know if that's true, but let's just say it is. So you're an assistant coach, and your head coach is like, "Yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen." Now you're worried about yourself, right?
Ross Douglas.
Yeah. Like, what am I going to do? Why is he telling me this?
Yeah.
You know, do I need to start making some phone calls?
Yeah.
What
if it's your dad?
The reports about Mayo rubbing people the wrong way is just assistants on the staff that are facing a lot of uncertainty right now about their jobs, what they're going to do, if they're going to have to move. And that's when stuff leaks. That's when people talk. People are uncomfortable right now. They're trying to chew themselves out of this. And it's probably won't
those
be the
reports
last
feel
of it.
motivated to me. I don't know by what, but it just feels like
there's
that's the message
agendas.
that somebody wants to get out there, whether it's
There's
true
agendas.
or not.
Yep.
Just talking to the times that we get to talk to Gerard Mayo, I feel like there's just a confidence about him, not an arrogance, but a confidence about him that if it's not here, it'll be someplace else. And if maybe that rubs some people the wrong way, that he's not, down in the dumps, that the team is where it is and everything like that. But, some people, the idea of, having to go get another job and moving cities and moving your family can be a very overwhelming thing.
Yeah.
Maybe to somebody like Gerard Mayo, it just isn't. If he has to go coach, in Carolina next year instead of here, then okay, we'll pack up and we'll move to Carolina.
If it's not here, wherever he goes, it'd be good for him to have clear responsibility. You know what I mean? Like right now, for all we know, he's the linebackers coach, and we hear he's a communicator.
Right.
But he's got to. If he goes somewhere else and it's short of a head coach, he's got to have clear responsibility to build that resume.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do wonder if that is in play. Eric Bieniemy just did that.
Yeah.
And
he got out from under Andy Reid's shadow.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's going to be immediate for him, but I'm sure that in the end he'll probably eventually get a head coaching job out of it unless he completely flops with Washington. But I think most people are blaming Sam Howell for that situation.
Jack in Inaba writes in, I've been a Michigan football fan for 55 years.
Okay.
Tom Brady's coach at Michigan, who shall not be mentioned, did mishandle Brady. Nevertheless, we Michigan fans knew Brady was better than a 6th-round pick. All you had to do was watch Brady's performance in Michigan's victory over Alabama in the Orange Bowl to see that Brady was a good pro prospect.
Yep. Clutch.
Yeah, that's the big one, right?
And that's what I mean. We gave Bill some flowers today. I think it upset some people because they're like tweeting at Paul, like, "Oh my God, like you should listen to." Like Paul's not going to listen. But Brady, to me, what made him so remarkable was just his ability in the clutch to make those plays.
It's just sad. It's so sad that we can't say that Bill Belichick's a great coach without people getting mad about it. No, and it's not. That's why this whole thing bugs me, the Brady versus Belichick thing, because it's like, who cares at this point? Like, it just doesn't make a difference anymore. But B, it's just like you can both things can be true. One is a good quarterback, one's a good coach. Like, you don't have to always be at odds about it.
It's a simpleton argument.
And just to put my old fan hat back on now after 5 years, it's like nothing's going to change the pure joy of watching those teams win 6 Super Bowls. And you can give whoever you want the credit. But for me as a fan, getting to experience those seasons and the ups and the downs and seeing them pull those victories out in always the dramatic fashion that they did, or even having your heart broken, like that, to me, the experience of that is what really matters most. Like people can believe whatever they want. They can think the Tooth Fairy was responsible for the Patriots Super Bowl. It's great. But it's never going to change what my experience was as a fan watching those championships.
I was just had some TV on in the background, and it was like one of the NFL Films Super Bowl 49 documentaries or whatever, and Jess walks in and she's like, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "Super Bowl 49." And she was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Why not?"
But when those games are on, and you flip them on, I instantly go back to where I was watching it, and I can even and this might sound stupid, but that 49, like the color of the grass to me was like this neon green. It's often like that there in Arizona, but like there's just something so distinct about that game that I just remember. I remember going to get food before the game. I remember who came over, all those things. And that to me as a fan, that's what I remember. I don't,
Claire in the UK writes in, "Hello everyone,
hello Claire, new tight end.
Belated holidays to everyone. Considering all the different variables, the draft position, Belichick's job, and that it's the Bills, are you rooting for a win on Sunday? I can't stand the Bills, but I know the fan base is divided on what the results should be. What say you? I say screw the draft crapshoot, trash the Bills. I'm rooting for a win. What the hell?
Sure. Well, I mean, what it would mean. I just think, again, it would just be so weird to think that this is the Patriots team that were to sweep the Bills, to win in Pittsburgh, to win in Denver of all places. Like, it just you never would have scripted it like that.
And then close out the season by keeping the win streak against the Jets alive.
I would like to beat the Bills simply to watch Bills Mafia just
implode.
Oh God, would lose. They would lose their minds.
I love that. All right, that's going to be it for this show. We'll be back tomorrow. Big day picks. Maybe Paul will be back. I don't know. He might find a camera somewhere. But John Rook and the Playbook is up next, right? Is that correct? Yep. All right. So we'll talk. All right.
Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original